Welcome back. The time is 6:46 on this Tuesday, 26 degrees in Billings to get us started. Let's go ahead and jump right into news. We do have some breaking news for you this morning. A vehicle crash on South 37th Street in Billings is now a murder investigation as first responders discover 2 dead bodies in the car, each with bullet wounds. Police were called around 3 o'clock this morning for a vehicle crash. When they arrived, they found the 2 men shot dead and a third with severe trauma to his neck. That injured man was taken to the hospital, and the gunshot victims have yet to be identified. We'll work to update you as this story develops. In other news, 2 controversial books will remain on the shelves in Billings public school libraries. Some parents tried to get the school board to remove Lawn Boy and Gender Queer, a memoir. Lawn Boy describes a sexual act between 2 fourth-grade boys, and Gender Queer includes a drawing of 2 adults being intimate. At a meeting last night, the school board cited free speech and a student's right to information as reasons to keep the books in schools. And LGBTQ+ advocates say the books provide representation for an underserved group.
And it's important for people, whether they are allies or whether they are part of the community or not, to be aware of these perspectives. It could help someone who's in a rough place, or it could just help someone offer another perspective that's not like their own.
The books are only in the libraries at West High and the Career Center. School District 2's library policy puts the responsibility on parents to determine what books are appropriate for their kids to read. U.S. troops are on heightened alert this morning, ready for a possible deployment to Europe if the situation between Russia and Ukraine escalates. Russia has more than 100,000 troops along the Ukraine border, but says it has no intention of invading. CBS's Laurel has the latest on the growing conflict.
The U.S. and its NATO allies are showing a united front in the face of Russian hostility toward Ukraine.
I had a very good meeting, total unanimity with all the European leaders.
President Biden later tweeted that in an 80-minute video call, they discussed efforts to deter further Russian aggression, like preparations to impose severe economic costs on Russia and to reinforce security on the eastern flank.
It will be swift, it will be severe. In the event of an incursion, it will be unprecedented.
Today, 8,500 U.S. troops are on alert, ready to deploy to Eastern Europe within 5 days if the situation deteriorates.
We are not deploying them now. We are not saying diplomacy is dead.
The French, Dutch, and Danes have already sent jets and troops.
We will always do what is necessary to protect and defend all our allies.
Russia denounced the move and denies it has any plans to invade Ukraine. But the former Soviet superpower has nearly 130,000 troops along the border. Russia wants assurances that Ukraine will never be a member of NATO, something Mr. Biden addressed last week.
The likelihood that Ukraine is going to join NATO in the near term is not very likely.
Russian President Vladimir Putin also wants a promise that NATO won't put strategic weapons in Ukraine. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Most of those 8,500 U.S. troops would likely end up being part of the NATO response force, which is made up of 40,000 troops from various nations. As tensions get worse, the Department of Homeland Security warns Russia could launch cyber attacks against the U.S. The warning says Russian hackers could have already prepared and practiced for a cyber attack during previous operations. U.S. intelligence officials believe Russian hackers were responsible for last year's Colonial Pipeline attack and the attack against meat supplier JBS. Today, the Federal Reserve begins meetings to discuss possible interest rate hikes. It's trying to control inflation, which is running at a 40-year high. Economy experts predict the Fed will raise rates at least 4 times this year. The importance of today's meeting will be how the Federal Reserve describes its actions and the state of the economy. Experts do not expect an interest rate hike when the meetings end tomorrow afternoon, but do expect a hint of when the first rate hike will happen. The head of the World Health Organization says we're not at the end game of the pandemic yet. The Director General said it's dangerous to believe that Omicron will be the last variant we deal with. Instead, he says global conditions are actually ideal for more variants to emerge. He believes the emergency phase of the pandemic could end this year if at least 70% of the global population were immunized. It's estimated that just over 52% have been fully vaccinated to date. Meanwhile, Chinese authorities are racing to test millions for COVID-19 after a cluster of cases hit Beijing. U.S. athletes and others around the world are starting to arrive for the Winter Olympics, which kick off in just a few days. CBS's Ian Lee has more on the second Olympics of the pandemic.
With athletes landing in Beijing for next week's Olympics, This is the welcoming committee, complete with hazmat suits, masks, and goggles. China's zero tolerance for COVID means it won't be your typical Winter Games. Athletes will be living in a tightly controlled bubble, including Chicago native and bobsledder Asia Evans.
It's best to stay safe and healthy, and I'm honored that we're still able to compete and participate in the Winter Olympic Games.
Anyone entering the bubble must be fully vaccinated or face 21 days in quarantine. China is also mass testing millions in the lead up to the opening ceremony. This Chinese official says we must go all out, seize every second, and be on guard against COVID. Like last summer's games in Tokyo, fans will be banned from events. So they'll have to watch the colorful choreography and competition like the rest of us on their TVs at home. Ian Lee, CBS News.
The opening ceremony begins next Friday, February 4th, and around 3,000 athletes from around the world will take part in this year's Winter Games. Here in Montana, a hearing is underway in Helena, which will determine whether or not one of the men responsible for the 2017 death of Broadwater County Deputy Mason Moore is going to prison or to the state hospital. Lloyd Barris was found guilty of 3 charges related to Moore's death last year, including deliberate homicide by accountability. Now a judge is taking testimony as she determines whether to find him guilty but mentally ill, which would keep him out of prison and in the hospital instead. Yesterday, prosecutors called a psychiatrist to the stand. He diagnosed Barris with a delusional disorder, but says Lloyd understood the law. He broke the law and should go to prison.
How's he able to go from going 100 miles an hour to surrendering? Well, the non-psychotic interpretation of that is he's surrendered. It's over. And when somebody surrenders, now they are conforming their conduct to the requirements of the law.
Last week, the defense presented their own expert who said Barris's disorder robbed him of the capacity to understand or conform with the law. The judge will make the final decision, but is not expected to make an immediate ruling. Shot clocks are coming to Montana high school basketball next season, but some smaller schools in our area are not happy about it. In Broadview, for example, the athletic director says it will be a challenge to find a volunteer who knows the game well enough to run a clock. On top of that, it's going to cost the school $4,000 to install. That money will be taken from the general fund and could take away from books, supplies, and other necessities.
I guess what I've always questioned with it, is this a good use of resources, or is there a better way to use them or utilize them to enhance the experience for kids and players? I think the intent or the idea behind it is to improve play, but initially at least until there's an adjustment to it, I think the style of play or the quality of play is going to actually go down.
And it's not just small schools concerned with the price. School District 2 Athletic Director Mark Walls says they will look into sponsorships to help offset the costs of the clocks. Now we go to Laurel, where a weekend fire forces a mom and pop yogurt shop to temporarily close its doors. Flames tore up the roof and ceiling, and water from putting the fire out ruined some inventory and damaged the floors. But this story has a nice twist. The community is rallying around the yogurt shop. Customers have donated money unsolicited to help while the business is closed. And that's not all.
The local contractor, Todd Payne with Payne Construction, has reached out and has offered to help free of charge. The one thing about Laurel is, you know, when you go through something like this, you're not going through it alone.
The owners say all they want you to do to help is pay them a visit when the yogurt shop is back open. Miller, it sounds like a plan, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Best of luck to them there. Wow. It's great when people come together to help those in need, isn't it?
Yeah, and when you have a store like that, it's like your own baby, and you just want to do anything and everything for it. So the fact that other people are stepping in, sure they're feeling the love.
Fantastic folks down in Laurel, absolutely, and definitely going to make a trip down there when everything's back together, absolutely. All right, before we get out of here quickly, we're kind of into a rather quiet stretch of weather now. We still have some winds and maybe some snow to deal with, but for the most part, high pressure kind of start to take over and dry us out and keep us calm as we get into the weekend. So today, we do have some snow this morning. That is starting to clear out. Could see some full-on sunshine at times today. High pressure, that gradient's going to tighten up tonight, so we're going to see the foothills start to see those winds whip through at least tomorrow morning. We'll start off with mainly clear skies, maybe partly cloudy in the morning, and then those skies will start to cloud up again today as we have another little quick blast of energy that could give us some snow maybe Wednesday night into Thursday, and then we're just going to be warmer than average for the rest of the week, days and nights. And there's that chance of snow Wednesday night and Thursday I was talking about. We do have some fog that we're dealing with here in Yellowstone County. We do have visibility issues a bit in Lewistown, also Sheridan, where visibility is down just a bit because you're dealing with some light mist as well. 25 at the airport. We are seeing a few flurries. I'd mentioned that's going to start to go away as we go along this morning. Feels like 17, winds out of the east at about 7 miles an hour. Temperatures across the area, 9 in Miles City, 18 in Forsyth, 26 in Livingston, 23 for my friends in White Sulphur Springs. Down in Sheridan, we're at 28. Across the state, our capital, Helena, just below freezing at 31. Great Falls at 26. Missoula at 23. Down in Cody, we're clocking in at about 23. Over in Miles City, it feels like 2 below right now, 4 below in Glendive. Quite chilly, but we are, again, starting to warm up a little bit as we head toward the weekend, maybe trying to get into the 50s in some spots. How about that? All right, so we're dealing with those winds. I had mentioned tonight we could see gusts from Livingston to Nye up to 65 miles an hour. Harlingen to Big Timber, we could see gusts up to 45, and that's basically tomorrow. So if you're in those areas, please use caution if you drive a high-profile vehicle. I wanted to point this out. Remember, we've been talking about La Nina, and that this is our second year in La Nina. Was a kind of a, in all things considered, a mild winter last year. This year, it looks like it may be more aggressive. Now, this is the outlook, the 6 to 10 day outlook. It's the end of the month through the first part of February, early February, and we're starting to see cooler or colder than average and wetter than average in terms of our outlooks as we get into February. Could this be the beginning of that stout winter that we're kind of thinking we're going to have? Only time will tell. Again, these are just outlooks that could definitely change, but something we're going to keep an eye on to see if we really do have that cold blast really coming in and a lot more snow in the forecast. Again, we're in a La Nina season, but we were last year and it was kind of a mild winter, so we'll see what happens. We'll keep you updated, I promise. 34 for the high today in Livingston. We'll go 32 right at freezing in Cody. Miles City getting up to 23 today. We'll go 33 in Sheridan. If you are seeing some snow this morning, it will dissipate as we go along. Maybe some of us full-on sunshine this afternoon. Tomorrow, we're going to see those highs in the 40s. By the time we get to the weekend here in Billings, we could be flirting with the 50s. And remember, tomorrow night into Thursday morning, we actually could see a little bit of snow here in Yellowstone County.
All right, time is 6:58, and can you believe it? It is the last Tuesday of the month, so it's time for our golf giveaway.
The golf giveaway, yeah, sure.
Yeah, good old golf giveaway. Let's see. We have 10 hours in the full swing simulator. That's the prize, and the winner is Jim Gordon. Congratulations, Jim, and have fun over at Mitchell Golf. And if you would like to register to possibly win next month's prize, you can just head on into the store there over on Montana Avenue. Can't miss it there. Yep.
Those simulators are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've done. It's been a long time since I've done it, but it's pretty neat.
I haven't.
Have you ever done it? You got to go in there.
I played golf one time, and I'm not talking about miniature golf.
You tried the real thing?
With the cart and everything.
How'd you do? Be honest.
I can't even remember.
Really? I bet the people that own the course remember.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I just remember there was like the drink cart and there was a lot of swinging and it was a lot of fun. That's all I remember. But it was a good time. It was down in Riverton, Wyoming.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so.
You did it out of state, so that way they couldn't track you down.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah,
cool.
a long time ago. But it is opposites day, so maybe if you're going to I don't know. I wouldn't want to walk to work today, would you?
Not this morning.
Okay,
Heading home today would be nice.
Heading home? Okay.
Heading home,
right.
I know. So maybe. I don't know, have somebody drop you off
this morning. Get your ride to work this morning.
And then walk home later today, yeah.
Walk back
It won't be too bad. A little chilly, but a lot of sunshine hopefully today.
All right, well, have a great day, and we will see you back here tomorrow.